Welcome to the How to Adult podcast, where we learn all things adulting. My name is Travis Walker, and I'll be your host. And today's topic is networking with intention. Get excited. Buckle up, because we're going to learn how to adult together. We are back for another episode of How to Adult. And we've got a very special guest that is not related to me, even though she has my last name. But her name is Laura Walker. She is one of my best friends. And why she is an interesting guest to have is because I met her at a work conference. All right. That's a weird place to find a best friend. And today's topic is networking with intention, because I think that what made our experience so different was because we were there with intention and openness, and we got a magical friendship from that. So, Laura, who are you? What are you doing? And what do you love about me?
All things, Travis. I love everything about you, Travis. And I'm sorry, I'm getting over being sick, so I apologize for my voice. I'm Laura Walker. I am the director of summer camps at Charlotte Latin School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I am also a mom. I have a 5-year-old and a wife to a 39-year-old. But I also am an entrepreneur. I have a small business. Before that, I worked in nonprofit with AmeriCorps. I was an after-school teacher, a homeschool teacher, and a preschool teacher. So I have a lot of different hats that I've worn in my past. But what Travis is kind of referring to is when we first met, it was a colleague of ours talking about a podcast. And it was, when are we going to, his name is Bob. And so we said, when are we going to have coffee with Bob and Laura? And he goes, oh, you should meet Travis Walker. He's got a podcast. And I was like, well, I think I just might. And so he pointed Travis out when he first walked in at the conference for a mutual professional development group, Spark, that we're a part of. And I was like, Travis, come sit down. I'm the person that just followed you on LinkedIn. I am the person who's already been following your podcast. Hey, remember me? That's me. Come on over. So I love Travis because you just have so much creativity. You're really willing to just do anything, put anything out there and see what sticks. And that's what you need to do when you're starting in a new field, or if you're an entrepreneur, and a lot of us are that work with camps and other programs. So I think, that, and you're also just a very wonderful person who has such a big heart, and I really value that about you. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. My ego is fed today.
I'm so glad. Your bucket can be full.
My bucket is so full. Thank you for that. And yeah, like Laura said, and like I mentioned, we met at a national conference in Scottsdale in Arizona. That was 2 years ago, somehow, a little over 2 years ago. And there are two other people in our magical friend group, Michael Carmody, who's been on the show, and Katie Peterson, who hopefully will be on the show. And so I'm really excited because this friendship came out of a very weird place. We were all there to network in professional development, and that's what our topic really is today. And networking with intention. People, I think, network without intention and don't see a lot of results because they're not doing it with an intentionality. And so when you hear that, when you hear network with intention, what do you think about? What does your mind go to? What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I have never really thought about, when I meet people, that it's really networking. For me,
Right.
I'm a huge extrovert. That is no surprise to anybody. However, if you're not an extrovert, networking is on your mind, right? And it's,
Right.
how am I going to get that job? How am I going to get that promotion? It's all about who you know, right? And some people move to a new town, or they start a new role, and they don't know who they should know. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so it's hard to come into sometimes and think, I'm behind the 8 ball, and now I've got a network, and you got to schmooze up to the right people. Who are the right people? There is no right person.
Right.
There really isn't. It's about relationships. And I think that that's the strongest thing about networking as a overall umbrella, that networks are relationships. Humans, we are by nature drawn to relationships. Now, some people excel in that because of their natural personality. They're drawn in an extroverted way to, pick up, different colleagues and networks and friends and, cohorts here and there and everywhere. But that's not for everybody. And that's okay.
Right.
But I think that one of the biggest things is that when you're networking with intention, you need to be genuine.
Right.
That's a huge part of it. So going into it, trying to give the lip service of you're agreeable to this, or, I'm not saying that you need to give all of your opinions in one conversation, but there's definitely tactics that when you go into a room of unknowns that you should be implementing. For me personally, and if you're watching this, I'll show you a picture of what I do. I do this on every Zoom call, and it's basically I make a grid of who's on my Zoom call, and
Oh,
I
wow.
highlight the person who has drawn my interest, right, from that Zoom call, and that's the person that I want to reach out to continue conversation. I do the
Right.
same thing when I'm at in-person networking events. Grab a cocktail napkin, put it in your book, make a little sketch. How does your table look? And where is that person on the pie slice? What's their name? Where are they from? How have they piqued your interest that they can become memorable to you? I'm a visual learner. And so for me, if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And I can meet a million people, but I won't remember them. So if I
Uh-huh.
write down Travis Walker, Texas, podcast, awesome, and mustache, like I'm going to know that's who you are when you walk in a room. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And then we've got a jumping off point because I didn't forget all those little things. So having intentionality, having a plan that works for you, a system that works for you, um, visualizing on that little grid where they were on your Zoom call or pie slice at your table. Those are ways that you can absolutely foster more relationships with people, which is therefore going to create a network for you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think also with that same note, the spirit of curiosity has to be thriving, right? You have to be interested in other people,
Mhm.
in the sense of you were interested that I had a podcast before we even met, and so you knew that you could talk about podcasting with me, right? I noticed that Michael Carmody is a doctor. Well, I want to know what kind of doctor he is. I want to know what led him on that path. And so, genuinely being curious, genuinely being interested, is going to take you a long way because it's going to get you through that awkward small talk phase. And we don't want to do small talk. We want to talk with purpose, right?
I think it's
Um,
funny that you talk about that, Travis, because I was recently listening. I follow a bunch of different people online for different social channels, and one person I came across mentioned some really great points about when you're going to meet somebody for the first time. Small talk is sometimes the most daunting or the most rewarding thing that you can have in your back pocket, right?
wow.
So some people are really good at small talk, like I said, and they can just create conversation. Not everyone can do that. And so if you're a listener now that's like, oh, yeah, that's me, I can't do that, here are a couple of your takeaways. You should be looking for situations where you can compliment. You should be looking for situations where you can create an event or insert yourself into an event. And you should also, like Travis said, find those curiosities or those commonalities that make people ask questions. So if you're doing those things, you're going to spur conversation just naturally, more organically, and genuinely.
Yeah.
So when I say like creating the event, that's a great one. Especially when it comes to food, a lot of people are passing around food at different networking events, or if you're at a
Right.
dinner table and it's, oh, what are you going to have on the menu? Have you had that before? You're at an event, you're inserting yourself into it of, oh, would you add hot sauce to that? Or would you, take something off of that? I'm not an olives person, but sometimes I might add tomatoes. Like those are things that then you can start to find some more common ground.
Right.
That person might have a garden. They might grow tomatoes. They might have just gone to Italy. They might love olives. They might be a wine drinker. Like these are all things that you are now with intention and genuine nature creating a relationship. You're creating
Right.
that jumping off point. and you're creating a network and you didn't even realize it. So those big things, those are really going to be ways that you can enhance, um, your baseline of who you're working with, whether that's my husband's an engineer and that is a tough crowd, friends. It's a tough crowd. Um, but those are ways that I do it as a campy person, right? I'm a summer camp director. What do I have in common with engineers? Well, we have engineering camps. That's always my segue, right?
Right.
Um, those are ways that you can kind of enter into the conversation, even if it feels like it's pulling taffy a little bit,
Yeah.
and keeping those questions and conversations more as open ended instead of closed yes and no questions. That also
Right.
helps.
Right. Yes and no questions are the death to conversations. And so
Oh boy.
I oh yeah, we got some amens. And so thinking about I want to touch on the power of networking. Why is this something that people should want to do? Why do people do it so often? And I want to hear from you a time where networking specifically had a tremendous impact on your career or on your journey. What's the power of networking for you specifically?
I think the power of it is you never know when you're going to need help.
Right.
Um, you never know when you're stuck with an idea or stuck in a position that maybe you're unhappy. You never know if you might need to create more clients and who could you reach out to? You might need to create more interest or more sales. And so for me, everyone says like, "Oh, you can't have too many friends." I think that when you're networking, your network can become your friends, and those people can really, even if they're not giving you something tangible, they're giving you something of confidence. They're your cheerleaders, right?
Right.
Like this becomes your network of people that are almost like tiered in a way. So you don't know if you're ever going to need them for professional reasons or personal reasons. Could be for recreational reasons or for a reference. It could be for any of those reasons. And I think that you can't put a price on that. That's invaluable, especially to me. I know that our friendship group, has been tremendous help for me the last 2 years that we've all been so intertwined, and I can't imagine even going a day without talking to you guys, right? But much less not having you all to bounce ideas off of or, just saying, "Hey, I'm having a really hard day, and this is what I'm struggling with." So, not even on the personal note, but professional as well, I think that it's important to have those people that you can lean on,
Right.
because you always need help, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. As you speak, I reflect on my experience with this group as well, in the sense of I rarely make business decisions for my job. I rarely make them alone anymore. I always, if it's really pressing, I don't ask the group for every single business decision. But if it is a decision that I think is going to have an impact on my programming, on my job, whatever it is, I'm going to reach out to my professional friends that can help me make that decision. And so I think that that's really interesting because it's true. I rarely make businesses decisions, big ones, alone anymore. And that's the power of a network. That's the power of having people in your corner that are willing to help. Yeah. Have
And
you
it's
had a
also to
similar
sell
experience?
for celebrations, like, nobody wants to toot their own horn,
Right.
but sometimes you know, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't introduce our game today, but we're at the first segment of our game. Our game today is this or that.
Oh,
Here we
good,
go.
yes.
This or that. Here we go. So we've got in person networking or online networking. This or that.
Oh, I don't even feel like this is a question. I'm gonna
Yeah.
draw you a little picture here. We need to do in person. We need
Yeah.
to be in person. There is, it's kind of like video killed the radio star, right?
Sure.
So there is no way that you are getting the same vibe, the same feeling, the same energy behind a screen. It's just not a thing. There's no body
Right.
language that you're loving. Nope. Um, and you know, it's not real life. And we live in the real world and we have real problems and we need real connection and we need in-person networking. We need in-person conversations and relationships because those go further. I mean, just being on a screen is great and it's convenient and it's necessary sometimes.
Right.
But what is essential is the in-person interaction and the tangible shaking of hands, fist bump, elbow, whatever your preference, right? You need that. And I think that we all kind of there's always that feeling whenever you leave a conference, right? That you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted." But it's that stamina of the mental capacity. Your real estate is constantly being occupied when you're
Right.
at a conference because of all of the sensory, right? The physical, the smell, the interaction, the energy. If you're behind a screen all the time, you're not getting any of that. So you might be building those surface level relationships, but you're not going to be building those deep, genuine ones that can have some more longevity. So
Yeah. I
in
absolutely
person all the way.
I absolutely agree. I think some of the most powerful networking experience I have had are in-person events, right? And then so it depends on what you're going for, right? Do you need a convenient professional development opportunity where you're going to learn things quickly and on the fly? Well, online might be the way to go for you. Do you not have a budget? Online
Yeah.
might be the way to go for you. But if you want a genuine, interesting relationship with people that are in a common space that you are, then it's got to be in person because of all the challenges that you mentioned. That's really good. And so we're kind of nudging toward the goal of networking, right? We've talked about the power of networking. So let's talk about the goal. When you are in a networking setting, what is your goal?
To learn. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, it's to learn. And I think that when we're learning about ourselves more, we learn about how we can then be a leader to our staff and to our colleagues. I read a really great book this last year called Culture Built My Brand. And
Mm,
it's written by Mark Miller and Ted Vaughn. Great book if you need something that's a little bit more of, you know, encapsulating of what you're looking for and how you can be that leader for your organization, not just through networking, but also through your work and through your internal team, that you can kind of do the behind the scenes look and then go forward to the front line, right? And that's what you want to do because nobody wants to network a bad product, right? And if
right.
you're not confident in your product, you're not going to want to network that, right? Not even just as a person, as a representative of your organization, but it's not, you know, I'm here representing my school. We also always have those secret letters on, right? Of I'm representing Charlotte Latin School, but I'm also representing Laura Walker and what does she stand for? And what kind of leader is she? And to me, that's really important. So I think that that is kind of at the top of the reasons, why it's important to have this in your career and really kind of fine tune your skills of how you're doing it and the frequency that you're doing it because if you're just going to a conference once a year to try to network and you want to grow, you got to do some more work. Like you got to get all in. um
Right.
you need to see who in your industry is setting the bar high. Who are you looking up to? Who do you admire? Why do you admire them? um See what organizations they're a part of. See if you should be a part of those organizations. That's what I did. I think that that was the number one thing that helped me grow when I was new in the camp industry was I was okay, who's the best leader right now out there, the biggest? American Camp Association. Great. Let me find my region. Let me find the best conference. Let me look at the reviews. Let's go online. Who's got a good social channel? All these things, like what are you wanting to grow, right? You want to grow your leadership, your program, your money, your social channels. Who's doing it well? They're doing it well for a reason, right?
Right.
um so look to those people and then start to dissect what works for you and what your budget allows, what you're confident with and what you can handle. Don't bite off more than you can chew or maintain. um These are all big things when looking to how you kind of find your networking style as well.
Yeah. Yeah. An interesting concept that is in this conversation among uh, commentators, podcasters is, if you show me your closest friends, you can see the future, right? And something that I love about my role specifically in our group is that the closest person in terms of revenue is doing triple what my program is doing. And I don't say that to bash on myself. I say that because I've surrounded myself with people that have done what I'm doing. They've grown their program to where I want to be, and they're going to caution me to mistakes that they've already made. And so I think that that is something when you're putting a networking group together, or you're looking for who should I aspire to be. Well, you should be looking toward people that are ahead of you, and not just one step ahead of you, two or three steps ahead of you. Shoot for the stars. And I think that's played a pivotal role in my journey, is that I've surrounded myself with people that are 2 to 3, 4 steps ahead of me, in life, and specifically in our work. So that's really interesting and really good. And jumping back to a previous conversation that we've started to have, you mentioned the word genuine. And in my notes, I use the word authenticity. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of the same thing, but what role do you think authenticity has in networking with intention?
Well, I mean, we can all, you know, feel when people are not being genuine, right?
Right.
We don't want that icky car salesman.
It's
We don't want to be
stinky.
that person. It's cringy. We don't like it. Nobody does. Nobody wants to be sold on something.
Right.
And so I think that when you're being genuine in, I think that this person or this company could help your business, that's a recommendation. That's not a sale. That's genuine. When you're
Right.
saying, I think that this model might be best suited for you because of your staff structure, your budget, all of that, that's not a sell. That's a recommendation. And you're doing that because, like you said, Travis, like you've probably already done it, right? Or you've seen people do it and it might have failed. Or you have the safety net to say, hey, I'm going to try this and it's going to fall apart. And that's okay. And then you learn from it, right? And
Right.
pivot. I tried to run a CIT program back in 2019. Well, COVID kind of shot that away, and that was fine.
Yeah.
Just didn't have any interest even prior to COVID. So, and I think it was because it was something we wanted, and I wanted to make it happen, but we didn't have the structure in place, right? And so it didn't work and we closed it, no problem, no harm, no foul. But then when we reinvented this, it was I need to have Matthew Jordan as my, right hand and this is something that he can do. He's
Right.
DIT, he's been in leadership, he can handle this. He also works with middle schoolers. Like that was something that within our organization, that was like a slam dunk. And
Right.
now we have interest. We have people applying. We have people who want to do this for the long haul. And that is like, don't be afraid to fall, but also, when you're genuine with recommendation of, well, we tried it this way and we know our market and we know our families and they didn't like it. Okay. Well, then we need to reimagine this. So
Right.
I think that when you're being genuine with building connection and building relationships, it's important that you also bring up things that have failed. And that
Right.
also speaks to authenticity, right? A colleague of mine, we were just talking the other day. She said, you and I are very similar in the way that we are the connector of dots, of people and dots.
Right.
And to me, I felt like nothing has rung more true, right? And I'm not trying to solve all the problems. I might just want to connect you with somebody who might have a better answer for you, right?
Right.
Here's my recommendation. And then let me pull this other person in because of this other network I've had and help connect the dots, right?
Right.
And I think that when you surround yourself with people that are doing it better than you, or you feel they are, or you see the numbers that they're pulling in and that's where you want to be, or maybe they just have that culture that you really admire. Maybe they have that staff love and that connection or that retention that you're really appreciating.
Mhm.
Maybe, they're just really happy in their job. And why are they happy? Like
Right.
that sometimes is a big thing that you need to find out.
Right.
Um, and so and because it's not always the salary, right? Let's be real.
Yeah.
And so why are they winning, right? But nobody has to lose for you to win. It's a
Right.
matter of finding those people, what are they doing right? How can you make that within your reach? How can you use those tools of connection when you do see them or when you do connect with them on Zoom or in person? And then how have you also cornered somebody who will genuinely connect your dots? Like,
Yeah.
you need a person who can connect your dots because otherwise it might just be a cold call and your personalities might not jive. And sometimes you need that other person, that little bit of endorsement, that recommendation,
Right.
but that won't happen if it's not natural and it's not genuine. And I think that sometimes the connecting of dots and people, those are things that we kind of forget about. And I didn't even know about. So now I'm really excited because I love being that person.
It's an important role, right? And
I think so.
you mentioned the word recommendation several times, and I reflect on my experience and the number one marketing uh, in terms of effectiveness for my camp is word of mouth. And I
Absolutely.
find that to be true not only in the camp space, but across all industries, that your word of mouth is going to make or break you. And you really want it to make you because it doesn't cost anything. And people are
Mhm.
spending millions of dollars on marketing or thousands of dollars on marketing. And so you really want to pay attention to your relationship with people because that recommendation, that word of mouth is going to play a huge role in your success. And so
Absolutely.
I love that you bring up that word recommendation. And I'm going to transition us to the next portion of our game.
Ooh, okay.
I think that this also is going to be maybe a little obvious one just because of who you are. So
It's okay. I like obvious. Let's go for it.
we've got building a few deep connections, building a few deep connections, or fostering a wide network of acquaintances.
Ooh.
Deep connections, wide network of acquaintances. That's a toughie.
It is a toughie, Travis, because I feel like for me at this point in my career, I would go with deep connections, obviously, because I do feel that I have over 10 years in camp leadership and this is what I was meant to do. And this
Right.
is what I love. So for me, it is the deep connections. However, I do feel that um, I do think that it's very crucial and it is very important to have lots of different networks
Mhm.
because sometimes they need that deep connection and you might not feel that deep connection with them, but they need it from you.
Wow.
So I think that they're kind of interchangeable. I'm sorry.
That's a really interesting idea because we've kind of been focusing on the take of networking, but you just brought up a really good point about networking, which is the give of networking and the
Right.
sense of what can you give to others? What can you give to other people's experiences? I think that's really interesting. Um, can you give an example of a time where you've been the giver rather than the taker in a networking setting?
Sure. I mean, I have a colleague friend of mine that we talk intermittently. I mean, a couple of times a year situation. Always have an amazing time when we talk. Lots of giggles, lots of content, lots of give and take. Um, is she in my close, deep network of circuit? No. And is that okay? Yes.
Right.
However, I do know that, and she's told me, like, I want this one aspect that you offer at your camp. I love how you do this, right?
Right.
And so whenever I haven't heard from her in a long time, I'll reach out to her. Hey, how you doing? How's that going for you?
Yeah.
What's, for me specifically, she did say it is our camp culture with our camp staff. And so she's like, I love how you guys do it. I love that you have camp names. I love that you have like an initiation with it and a whole process. Shh, we won't talk about that. But the whole thing is like, it creates the magic, right? And it creates the relationships and the bond. And I love my staff. I feel like a proud mom, aunt, like cheerleader for them.
Right.
I've gone to several weddings of theirs now, and it's just like full circle, like a great community of like our nerdy camp staff. I love it. I'm a giant nerd. Bring it on all day. And so, but for her, she has said that, like, I want that. And it has to be organic. It has to be natural and it has to be genuine. And I know that that's something that she wants and she's working on it and she's made great stride. And so I will check in with her and say, hey, how's your culture going? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And she'll, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really needed this. I'm struggling with this because I know that she needs that deep dive with somebody who gets it.
Right.
Um, and I think that that's another of connecting of dots in people, right?
Yeah.
Um, being able to be that person for someone that you need to help fill their bucket, and that also fills yours too. Because as we grow in any industry, we get to a point where we become the teacher, right?
Hmm.
And that's when it becomes you can share the most, you know the most, and that's a very rewarding place to be.
Right.
Um, and there's there's no greater compliment than that, in my opinion. So if
Yeah.
we can give back in that way, I'm not saying like spill the tea. We don't got to give them everything, but you can give them a little drip drop here, a little drip drop. And your deep dive, you guys really get into the nitty gritty of it, the emotion of it, all the things. But there's always going to be people that need a little bit more. And sometimes it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost you anything. Being a listener is one of the most powerful things you can do. And being a
Yeah.
leader, being a listener is the biggest thing you can do too, because leaders are not out front.
Yeah.
Leaders are underneath, right? They're
Yeah.
underneath. They're that blue light boil, right? That's what they are. They're helping everybody else come to the surface. And so the more we do that for other people, the more it's going to be organic within our own efforts in our own organization.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that the listeners that are considering their networking game, you know, don't only focus on what you can take, what you can get from it. What can you contribute to it? Right. Like I said, the three people in our networking friendship are all way ahead of me, but somehow they say that I help them. I'm not sure how that is,
Travis,
but
we are not way ahead of you. We are learning with you.
yes, but I think that that's interesting because even though I am not as far in my career, these people that I've surrounded myself with still think that I have something to give to them, which I think is interesting and exciting. And people should think about that no matter where you are in your career, whether it's early like me or in the middle like Laura. You can still give, and if you're at the head, if you've been in your career for a long time, it's your responsibility to give. You have to share. You know too much, as I like to say. That's really good. That's really good. So I'd like to kind of close with what is that final piece of advice out there for someone who is just starting their networking journey or they want to improve their networking practice? What's that final piece of advice?
I would say just do it. Just jump in.
Yeah.
And if you're nervous, it's fine. Everyone's nervous because the more you put yourself out there, the more people you're going to meet, and that's never going to hurt you. Um, and I think that the more you're willing to put yourself out there, the more opportunity you are to find that person who does like to connect dots and people,
Hmm.
and they will shepherd you. And that can also help build your confidence in networking because we all have something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your program is brand new. That means you're coming at it with fresh eyes. It doesn't matter if you're a $5 million program and you have all the bells and whistles and the big budget and the celebrities, kids attending. That doesn't matter. There's something that's falling through the cracks and you know
Right.
it.
Right.
So you might need that person with fresh eyes, with fresh ideas, or you're given an opportunity to mentor. And so I think that you need to be all in. It doesn't mean that they have to be your best friend on a personal note, but it does mean that you never know when you're going to reach out for them for help or when they might need your help. And I think that there's nothing more rewarding than being able to pay it forward. So jump into it, be all in. You get out of it what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, people that are going into networks and sales or a new position, they might feel like they're the jack of all trades, but they're not really the master of this. So I'm going to stay a little quiet and I'm not going to go to the front, right?
Sure.
Nope. No back row Baptist. Move up, move up, make that little diagram, learn the people at your table, start small, and then you never know where you're going to go from there. So
That's really helpful. That's really helpful. Kind of jumping out of our topic today, I want to know, as a person, what are you excited about in life?
Highland's Got Cows. I'm just kidding. I do love them though. They do make me very happy. What am I excited about? Oh gosh. For my camp program you're talking about for this summer?
I just want to know what's on your mind. What are you excited about? What keeps you giddy?
Oh my gosh. I would say innovation. Innovation keeps me really excited. So anytime I can be the new kid on the block with something, I'm all about it. And if
Yeah.
I can DIY it and be the new kid on the block, I'm all about it. And do it in a costume with music and bubbles, I'm all about it.
Yes.
So, yes, innovation
That's
and
great.
cows.
Cows. We love cows here. Well, all you listeners out there, go find a picture of this cow. I believe it's very cute. And
It's so cute.
and remember, we'll see you next week and continue to learn how to adult together. Thank you so much to Laura for coming on the show and helping us all learn how to adult. To stay up to date on all things how to adult, make sure that you follow at How to Adult TW on Instagram and Facebook. Remember, we are going to learn how to adult together.